Hello, YouTube, once again. This is Jonathan after a long hiatus. Those of you who are my subscribers may have noticed I haven't put a video out for a while. There are a number of reasons for that. Life in general being busy, inspiration not quite striking, and I don't want I don't want to create videos that I'm not really into, really excited about. So took a little bit of a hiatus. I actually just got back yesterday from the Origins Game Fair out in Columbus, Ohio, and I was able to play in an Axis and Allies 1942 Second Edition tournament while there. I did play a 1914 match, but it was not a tournament game, and because of schedules not realigning, I didn't play in an anniversary edition tournament, though they did have one of those going on. And I saw on the schedule they also have a global 1940 tournament. Those matches take pretty much all day, even though there's a time limit. I think it's like 10 hours for that game, whereas it's, I think, 6 for anniversary, 6 for 1914, and I think 5 for 1942. I might be getting those times mixed up, but Greg, the guy who runs it, great guy, because everything needs to be on a schedule and certain games have to be finished by a certain time so you can move on to the next round, or so, if somebody wants to go do something else, they can actually fit it into their gaming schedule. It's important that games run within a certain time frame. Now, you always have a little bit of flexibility. A game might not start when you expect it to because somebody's running 5 minutes late. Then you have to set up. But he has some timers going that when everything's been decided, who's going to play what side, and you are ready to actually start moving pieces, that timer starts. And you can take as much time as you want, as much time as you need. Now, if you're taking excessive time, there may be some complaints, but typically that doesn't really happen. But you can get through as many rounds as you can, and he has a nice warning system. When you're within so many minutes of the end of the game, there's a reminder, like 60 minutes, let's say. You've got 1 hour left. It might be a little different depending on which version it is. But there's a certain threshold, and once you get to that point, he tries to let everybody, or a volunteer of his will try and let the people playing in the tournament know, hey, you only got 60 minutes left. And if all of the players agree that they can get through another round, so let's say that you're playing 1942 and Japan is wrapping up its turn, and you hear you got 60 minutes left. Well, you might decide, yeah, we think we can get through, finish Japan, do America, and let every country have one more turn. Yeah, we'll keep going. If you don't think that you can do that, then you're going to get through that round. You'd get through Japan and then America and then say, well, we'll stop. Now, the advantage to that is that you get to play a little bit longer and you get to see your strategy through to fruition a little bit longer. The disadvantage is that after you get through that, and I believe there's like a little buffer period of like 15 minutes you can go over or something like that. We'd have to check his website for sure. He has it all on there. But I think it's like an extra 15 minutes. But if you go through that and you're still playing, that is the drop dead time. There is no, well, let's let this country finish their turn, or even let's let this country finish their battle. It is the drop dead moment when that timer goes off with that buffer and all the warnings. At least that's my understanding, and I think that's a good way of running it. Now, I will say that I've never been in a match where that's been necessary, but I know that anytime people are passionate about a game and maybe they're so close, they played for a number of hours and they just need one more turn to turn things around or to seize the initiative or whatever it is. But sometimes you don't have that extra time, and so that's a critical thing to keep in mind when playing in these tournaments. Like I said, I haven't had that happen to me, but I think that is an important component, and I think Greg runs that really well. And anytime you're playing in a tournament like that, that is key. You've got to remember, how much time you actually have. You don't have an infinite number of times. You can't say 3 hours in, well, 5 or 6 rounds from now, I'll have things turned around. You don't have 5 or 6 rounds. I mean, maybe in global you would because you've got 10 hours or so, but in 42, certainly you don't. Now, in 42, we actually paired off this year, and so I was with a teammate, and he's actually the guy who beat me in the Anniversary Edition Championship round last year. So it was nice to work with him from a different angle, and I will admit that he is the better player. I find myself, I perceive myself to be kind of mid-range as far as the people who play in these tournaments. There's some people that I feel more confident about playing against, and some people that I am less confident playing against. And my partner was the better player. Hats off to him. We played a couple rounds, and ultimately we did come out victorious. And so we each got a little trophy here. I'll zoom in on this. I'll back up a little bit so you can see the top. Very nice trophy that we have here with a Spitfire, I believe, over there, and that little plaque. So we each got one of those. And normally Greg allows the winners of the tournament, in addition to some sort of a trophy or a medal or something, to select a copy of a game that they would like. And so I selected Global 1940 because that is one of the few versions that I do not have. I think it's the only core version that I don't have. So I was very happy that he had an extra copy of that he could loan me. So this opens up the opportunity for me to create some videos on a game version that I just haven't been able to do before. Now, and that is something that's exciting to me. And I've watched I've watched a number of videos, General Hand Grenade, Young Grasshopper, Sired Blood, and so forth, that put out a lot of global material. But I also want to read over the instructions in detail myself. Now, because I've not played the game, my videos that will be coming will not necessarily be based out of the battle. They won't necessarily be battle hardened because I won't have had a chance to play multiple times with multiple different people. But I plan on approaching it from a this is what I think should be done based on how things are set up. And also accounting for some of the tidbits that I do remember from some of the other videos. I might watch a few more as well to do that. So that is something that I plan on turning out a few videos on global here before too long. Now you'll notice that I'm not sure how clear it's going to be in the video, but the map might look kind of weird. Let me zoom in. In fact, let me move this out of the way. That is because my table that I normally shoot videos from is clearly not big enough to support the entire global. So I actually have Pacific kind of set up in a V, those two boards, and then under it I've got the Europe in a rectangle, just to try and get everything on here. I do have a leaf for my table. I might put that in, or I might try some other arrangement. I might also just shoot videos using one board. So let's say I might make a video showing just Europe. I talk about Europe strategies, just keeping in mind, hey, there's stuff going on over here in the Pacific. And then I might do the same thing with the Pacific. We'll just have to see. I'll play around with a few different ideas and think about that. So I was a little disappointed in that I didn't get the chance to try my 1914 kill France in 4 turns, France and Italy 4-turn strategy. The 1914 game that I played was myself, another individual on my team who I think he'd played the day before. I'm not sure how much other experience he had. He was a fairly new player, I believe. If he's watching this video and I got it wrong, I apologize for that. But I believe that he was a newer player. Whether it was his second game or not, I don't know. But I believe he was a new player. And then we played against 2 individuals who had played a lot of out-of-box rules, but this was their first time really playing tournament rules. And so we played Central Powers, and we ended up doing the typical, the more traditional, I'll say, Central Power strategy where Austria and Germany ganged up on Russia and knocked them out quickly. And we were very successful in that. France was pushing in a little bit on Germany, but it really wasn't too far along at that point. They was still pretty much right at the border between France and Germany, but that's where they were pushing. The Ottomans were doing all right. The Italians and the Austrians kind of had their stalemate. The biggest moves on the board were just Russia getting steamrolled, and the Central Powers not really losing much ground anywhere else. And so they ended up conceding that game. But that wasn't a tournament game. That was just a regular game. So it was nice. It was nice to introduce some new people to the rules. 1914 is not a version a lot of people know a ton about. In fact, this was just a personal, and a little personal enjoyment for me. And not in the game that I was playing, but in a different one. There had been a dispute over 1914 rules, and I happened to be around, and Greg, the guy who runs the tournaments, asked me to weigh in on it, because he knows that that is my favorite version of the game, and that I've played a number of games. I've participated in his tournaments before, and there have been moments where I've gotten the rules wrong, just slightly. I remember, if you watch some of my older videos, there is a movement rule. Can you double move into territories that only you contest, or if your ally contests it, can you double move? And I had originally believed that it was only if you contested it, and then last year at Origins I had that clarified for me. So I've gotten them wrong as well, but he knows it's a version that I enjoy very much, and that I've studied up on him, and so there were a few moments where he asked me to settle those rules disputes, and so that made me feel proud. I'm glad that he put that trust in me, and that I was able to help him and help those other players better understand the rules. Now, one last thing that I want to mention about Origins, they did have, where I got this little badge, I'll zoom in a little bit, the Axis and Allies Zombies game there. I believe they were working with like a demo version. The full version, I think, will be a little different. I hope, well, not a little different, but the materials might be a little different. I hope I'm not getting that mixed up with a different game. There were a lot of games there, not just Axis and Allies. But they did have a copy of it there. They had a copy of War Room. It's possible I might be getting that mixed up. Maybe it was the War Room demo. But they had both of those, and I did kind of look at Zombies a little bit. I didn't play it. It sounds like it has an interesting component to it, in that when your infantry die, zombies appear in their place. Now, I don't know the details of exactly, the intricacies of that rule and how many zombies and all that, but they appear and then they'll stay in the territory, and you have to fight them off before you then advance your army. Now, I believe that doesn't count as a combat move, but you could incur like an additional casualty or something like that. And entire territories could be overrun by zombies, and you might use them as a buffer. It might help you. It might hurt you if your enemy maybe is using them as a buffer, and they can pull back because there's this horde of zombies in the way for you to get, preventing you from busting through. So it could work either way. There were a number of people I saw over at the table demoing it. They really seemed to be having a good time. So it adds a unique little twist to a regular Axis and Allies. And I was asking, I don't think it's that expensive. Like, a lot of the boards now are like $60 or more, $70, $80 even in some cases. I think they said that would only be like $40. So I may pick up a copy. I didn't while I was there. They weren't really selling them, in the tournament area. But if it's only $40, then maybe. I want to learn a little bit more about it, but it seemed very interesting. So it's something to look into a little bit more, I think. I really wasn't sure what to expect on that front. But they were also handing out these little badges, so I went ahead and picked one up for myself just to have. All right, that is a lot of material. That's everything that I wanted to cover in this video. I'm gonna go and read up on the rules about Europe and Pacific, and then we'll see if we can get some videos shot here in the not so distant future. Have a good day, everybody.